folks, Doc Stars here. It is September 30th. Important things that you need to know about. If you watched the last video, Frequency of Fear, it's a good thing to watch that entire video because it's relevant to what's going to be happening. Expect potentially in your own life, certainly collectively, there to be some kind of crisis around October 1st. And we got a couple of sort of tremor dates sprinkled throughout the month. October's a mixed bag. There's some really, really good things happening. Collectively, you should be on top of that. You need to know enough of the details so that you can actively take advantage of whatever opportunity is there. You need to be aware of the hazards, both what's happening collectively and ideally in your own life. So, if you saw the presidential debate on the 29th, or if you've seen excerpts from it, you can see that the nature of the chaotic energy was really in line with what we talked about in our last video, Frequency of Fear. And really, you know, when we pay attention to what's going on in our environment, locally and globally, we're going to see manifestations of these kinds of energies. I want you to be prepared. I want you to be okay. And I want you to, you know, take advantage of whatever resources and information you can to make it through safely. Two things to focus on next 30 days. So obviously one is survival. So you need to know how do you survive the best. And then the other one is, and it's funny because it's such a contrast, trying to make your higher sense of purpose, your vision for that, crystallizing. And, you know, one of the challenges that I run into when I share my work with people, especially when we have like business and executive class people coming for things that are like trend metrics and forecasts, you know, trying to, you know, look at the analytics of a trend, I have to always parse the nonsense, new age quackery, and just downright like fiction that's out there, and that spills over into my frequency work. There's so many. One of the reasons I haven't released more information in detail on platforms like my YouTube channel is because there are people out there that skim my site, give me no credit, harvest information that they weren't aware of, didn't come up with, didn't develop, and then they try to repackage it and assign it to a grotesquely inferior product or service. And, you know, they describe it badly. And so I have to figure out some way to get past the gatekeepers of noise and, you know, selfish motivation to try to get concepts to you in a way that's clear of that. So, you know, I know a lot of the people, thank you for the reception. We had quite a lot of views in a short period of time on our last video. And again, I apologize, as I have already, for not sharing more with you, but I'm going to try to make a better effort here. My situation is I have a lot of work every day. And so most of that work is research and development. There's lots of times I think I should share stuff with you. I feel that I should. But every single time I share something, every single time I post something, I know that there's, you know, it's ridiculous to say and it's sad to say, but there's literally vultures watching me. So it's you know, I wish I could just share more freely. Anyway, so all right. So thank you for that. And I want to just, you know, we talked about why these frequencies are meaningful and important. The key takeaway, and we had a number of people purchase frequencies on that sale, so thank you for that. It's great, you know, that a lot of you, you know, are buying using my frequencies, but understand that the point isn't that you just buy something, I make a profit, maybe you try it and it helps you. That's not what we're doing here, and that's not what we've been doing all along, and that's not what I started out doing. What we're trying to do here is get you as aware as possible as to what's happening in your reality. Use that information to get a sense of balance and orientation. And then if you've got things that are weighing on you, see what can be done to lighten the load. It's like if you're a hot air balloon, you have to get rid of ballast. You have to cut the sandbags from the basket so you can lift up in the sky. So really, the bulk of what I do is I try to help you identify what are those sandbags, where are they, how do we get rid of them. So the reason that I'm saying this is just that for those of you that purchased a bunch of the frequencies, the last sale that we had, and for those of you that inquired, the work that I do isn't like a lot of the stuff that's floating around out there. They're not like solfeggio frequencies. There's a lot of people that are almost in a predatory way preying on the hunger that people have for an understanding of frequencies in a vitalizing application of them, and they're just providing ridiculous crap at outrageous prices. And they don't understand the technology, and a lot of them don't care to really try to help people with it. So I want to make really, really sure that there's a few things that you understand when you're using my work, because for those of you that spent the money that you did, and it was a generous amount of purchasing by you guys, so I appreciate that. But you need to really understand what it is you've gotten and how to use it. And so make sure that if you've done that you've gone through the links that were sent to you when you purchased the frequencies. And there's training in there. And if you have questions, make sure you ask me, because I don't just want to sell stuff to people and with every single thing that they've bought. They're not, it's important for you to improve. It's important for your state to get better. That's what we're doing here. That's why we're doing what we're doing. So so make sure that you go through the links, but also so you educate yourself. There's a simple process that's required for you to get the best results quick. But when I say results, I mean, it's like if you use this tool with, regularity and attention, you should be expecting significant, measurable change. You should feel it. There should be things in your life that are getting better. And you should be able to look at it and go, okay, well, you know what? This has made a difference. So one of the understandings that I want to leave you with is when you're under stress, the symmetry, harmony, and order in you, physically, mentally, emotionally, it starts to lose its structure. It starts to lose its coherency. There's noise. There's like snow on the television. You can't pick the radio station up, in your car. You're getting noise. So that will happen inside of you, and you don't want that to happen, when there's additional challenge going on in the environment. And there is going to be challenge, over the next few months. So there's different techniques and procedures that you should be aware of. You should put the time and effort into understand and review them, and then apply them. And so that the understanding that I want to leave you with is that you want to impart a rhythm of vitality, a rhythm of a positive, healthy direction as a tangible thing into your life when you're under stress. So for instance, if you're a business executive and you've been impacted by, if you're a trader, I know we have a lot of traders and brokers and finance people that, or thank you for your patronage and interest. I know a lot of people of you that are into WD GAN automatically, get a lot of what I'm saying, which is great. I really appreciate that. And while it's true in my estimation and in the estimation of our members, that the rhythms I design are very capable of these kinds of tasks. It's not just about that. It's about your life, right? So you don't need my frequencies. I think there's probably very few of my frequencies that can, because understand that the information, the frequencies, I purport that the body and mind, they already naturally know. So it's important that whether you're using my frequencies or any other kind of tool or not, that the driving force is the will inside of you to want to be able to be balanced and whole, to question areas that need to be questioned, and to seek the means to orient and create that vitality. And if that means, you keep the routine in your day, you're making progress, while there's bad news and you or other people in your circle might be feeling despair, it's like as much as you can every single day you have a routine, a rhythm, a thing, a process that you're going through where you're seeing, despite catastrophe around you, you're seeing progress. This will give you hope, and it will give you real progress. And it's important because here's the thing. This is one of the things I wanted to share with you. So, right before all this happened, let me just backtrack a little bit. So a lot of you already know my background is computing science, and I've been involved in different capacities in the alternative health arena for a long time. And I've hung out with and learned from some pretty amazing people. So I don't take a normal traditional astrologer, like there's people out there, different kinds of astrologers, and like any, pursuit, you're going to see a range of expertise, skill, and you're going to see a lot of bullshit. So the approach I take is a science one, and I did not get into astrology lightly. I was very skeptical of it. But, I'd mentioned in other videos, one of my mentors was a professor of astrophysics. He had tenure at Stanford, and he's been in the top 10. He also studied heliocentric astrology at the same time as being an astrophysics, an astrophysicist. But, as far as practicing heliocentric astrology, he's been in the top 10 globally for a long time. I don't think he's always right about everything. But, he taught me for some time. And I've seen him be right about a lot of things, enough so that I pay attention to what he's saying. And he called this whole Rona scam right back in April, and I had intended to come out and share some of the things that he had told me about, but I thought it best to wait a little bit on that. Now we know there's over 500 doctors in Germany that are right pissed off, and it's just exploding. But I think one of the reasons that this happened the way that it did, and understand, I'm not saying that I think the virus isn't real. I mean, there is apparently a real virus out there. It's just that there's some real creative manipulations going on surrounding it. So, but I think one of the reasons that it came out when it did was that in a lot of places on the planet, there were forces, I think, of good that were making progress. And there was innovations happening and new relationships forming, dynamic energies, something that was beautiful and creative and of a higher nature. If you're spiritual, then it would be of a higher spiritual nature, or it would be, just something beautiful was about to be born. And then that happened. So it didn't disappear, right? Rona didn't stop it. And so one of the things he said is that while your movement right now is restricted laterally, your movement is not restricted vertically, which means you can go straight up. So what that translates to practically is that, yes, many of the people on the planet have physical limitations on their movements, what they can do, and it's getting ridiculous. But at the same time, what's happening right now is there's a facilitation towards self-improvement, self-development. So even if you're stuck at home, you don't want to sink into, like, we all go through it. I go through it too. But you don't want to sink into, a place of inertia, lethargy, and resignation, despair. You need to keep that spark inside your mind, emotions, heart, spirit alive. You need to cultivate it like a burning ember. And you need to go straight up. October is an important month. It's pivotal. So I've had this conversation privately and in different chats. So I'll just reiterate this here. When in physics, we have that idea collapsing the wave function, right? And, there's been a lot of conjecture and casual and some academic talk about, are there parallel realities? Are there other, realities? Whether or not there's any truth to that, one thing you should be aware of is that there's always potential probabilities of a object, a projectile in motion. So you have like a trajectory path. It's a curve, it's an arc. And so some object is traveling through time and space, and if you look at it, generally you can come up with generalisms as to, can I tell how far and in what direction and in what curve that object will travel, and can I get an estimation of where it will land? You have to factor in things like what's the surrounding air turbulence, that kind of thing. But having said that, that's a relatively static model for a real world situation because, quite often objects move through a chaotic medium, meaning that they can be prone to, impact or being nudged off their trajectory or jarred. So you can have something traveling through space, everything seems fine and dandy, and then something hits it hard and it changes its direction, etc. So what happens to us is that we have a trajectory in life, right? There's lots of them. And so if you take a person that has great promise and a potentially good future, it might make a difference in their own lives and in the lives of others. If they get impacted by something in their environment, then, that can set them back. So you don't want to get caught in that. So in October, we have a number of dates that are important. They could have a significant influence on the trajectory of your life. You want to make sure that you're in the best state possible and that the choices and the actions that you're taking are definitely appropriate and proportional to the situation. And there will be times in the month where many of us, because of our state, internal unrest, and what's happening environmentally, we could be more prone to making poor choices, taking poor actions. And understand that these kinds of things at the wrong time can have long-lasting consequences, and they could be the kinds of consequences that you don't want to entertain. So, here's what I understand. And my mentor really described it well. He often uses different kinds of archetypal figures to represent what's happening in the play of life. So what's happening over the next month, and I'll talk about this more in subsequent videos, but just to give a quick overview, the collective is, it's separating. There's a division happening psychically, or however you want to call it, in the collective. And it will be a majority in the collective that are basically lost. They're hysterical. They're losing. It's highly entropic, so energy is dissipating. And what's going to happen is they're going to basically go overboard, and then they'll indulge in something, and then they'll collapse. But then a much smaller segment of the collective will be different from that. And it will be people that have tried to go off on their own, individually actualizing, cultivating something of real meaning and value in their lives. And they'll kind of get alone. Their circles will tighten. So people that maybe you needed to meet or that you hope to meet, with good fortune, this will come together. And some progress can be made, despite everything that's going on, despite economies crashing, and despite the way that my mentor described it. He says it would be basically like, the barbarian hordes overran something, and they engaged in too much emotionalism, freaked out, pigged out, and then collapsed, whereas the other group were like, the early civilization of Troy, or the Greek philosophy king society, where during that time of excess and collapse, they were busy, producing great works. And so you want to be on that side, because what we see is that different trajectories through a chaotic system will tend to have better chances or higher probabilities of being able to successfully navigate through that continuum and come out the other side. But what happens is you have a kind of a sieve or a filter that goes across the continuum, and only energies or particles or essences of a certain quality escape the filter. And so that translates into personification and embodiments and expression, and basically being in that energy form. And so what it is, basically, the energies that make it this month are basically, the way he described it was, it's like the good-hearted, innocent boy and girl that love each other and believe in good things, high things, and they try to make something about it, and they stick to that. And so those trajectories have a better chance of getting through the next 30 days. Now, there's a couple of dates that you need to know about in October, because what happens is when we get to a point or moment in time-space, there is a kind of, I don't want to call it like a portal or a gateway, but it's a transitional node. So you're at a node where it just so happens that whatever state you're in, or whatever you're choosing, whatever you're paying attention to, it collapses the wave function, and now you're in a reality that's largely biased by the consequences of your choice, right? So it's bifurcation. It's where it's a fork in the road. You want to make sure that when you're on that fork in the road, that you don't go down the wrong path. And so certain dates are ripe with that sort of energy. And in the third week of October, there's a harsh one. And a lot of people will feel it, and it's not going to be pleasant. And I'll talk about what the specific date and more about that in a following video. But then there's two other dates towards the end of the month that are golden. And it's going to be tough, because what's going to happen is it's like you're surfing in the ocean and you want to get to a sweet spot, but in order to get to the sweet spot, you've got to go through a dangerous area, turbulent, undertows. So you have to get past the first date intact and not lose your vitality, and then be ready for that opportunity towards the end of the month. And if you can do that, your chances will go way up. All right. So that's what I want to leave you with right now. Check the comments section below. There's 2 full moons, as you know, this October. You should be aware of them. Chances are most of you watching this will notice their effects. Certainly and it's in Aries. It's a full moon in Aries, so it's going to be explosive. But There's a bunch of links that I like, people that I follow. I think they do a pretty good job. You know, it's when I do consults for people, if it's like forecasting or metrics, you know, trend metrics, I use a variety of tools. You know, some are astrological, and there are different schools of astrology. Like, it's a blend. One of the principles that we focus on in Sound of Stars is the parallax view. In other words, we examine something from multiple angles to get a better overall understanding and picture as to what's actually happening. And this is why I don't just stick to one model. If something big is going down, I want to understand it from lots of different perspectives. But there are specific perspectives that I value and I respect. And so you'll find some of that in the links below it. They're just descriptions of what is happening with the full moon. You should check it out. These people do good work. I generally trust their opinions and insights. And then the other thing is, I can't keep doing sales. I do want to help. We did a 50% off sale before, and it's, you know, I appreciate the eagerness that everybody jumped on that, and it was helpful. You know, but I can't keep doing 50% off. So what I'll do is, if you're serious about wanting to, you know, make a difference, and you're willing to put in a minimum of effort, then I'll support you. You need to make sure that you're using it properly. So you need to put in the time to understand, you know, a small amount of literature so that you're using the technology appropriately. And I'll offer a 40% off. And I don't know how long I'll hold that. Probably maybe I'll do it the first week or two of October. But if you want to get something, I know a bunch of people contacted me asking about different selections. If there's something that you want from our catalog, and you're serious about, you know, using it, just send me an email. doc_starz@yahoo.com, or just message me. You know, let me know what you're after or what you need. I'll do what I can. But the important thing right now is make sure that you've got a good, healthy daily routine down. You should be stretching or doing whatever you can every day. Tai Chi is good. You know, have something that you're doing to make sure that you're feeling good. Pay attention to your nutrition. So that's it for now. I'll be in touch with everyone as soon as I can be.